Welcome to a Google Earth tour of the new Bagrut Literature program, which includes texts from different parts of the world. The Bridging Text and Context component helps students learn background information about the different plays, novels, stories, and poems to enrich their understanding of the text being studied. Using Google Earth is one way to teach bridging text and context. As a sample, I've prepared a tour of the different settings of some of the pieces on the program. Included here are just some of the options that webtools offer, such as photographs, relevant YouTubes, and Camtasia, which I use to record this. I hope you'll be inspired to use these tools for classroom presentation, or to have your students use them to present their own work. We'll start close to home with Ozymandias by Shelley, which was published in 1818 and set in an ancient desert in Egypt, where we can see all that is left of the once great leader Ozymandias, the ruins of his statue. We'll only have time for one YouTube on this tour, so let's listen to the famous actor Ben Kingsley as he recites the poem.
I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear: My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away."
The next step is a neighborhood in Pakistan, where Samina Shirazi set her poem, Grandmother. You can come back later and listen to a Vaki, which recites the poem. Moving north, we see the area in England where George Eliot lived during the reign of Queen Victoria, when Count That Day Lost was written. Now we'll cross the Atlantic Ocean to Harlem, New York, where Langston Hughes wrote about the situation of the African Americans in the days of the Harlem Renaissance during the early 20th century. If you come back, you can listen to a recording about Langston Hughes and the Harlem Renaissance. Not far from here, in the Bronx, is Lehman College, where the poet Billy Collins teaches literature. Be sure to come back to listen to him recite his own poem, Introduction to Poetry. North of here is a section of the United States called New England, where Robert Frost wrote about in his poem, The Road Not Taken. If you come back, you'll be able to hear another famous actor recite his poem, or see another Voki which we made. All My Sons is a play that was written by the playwright Arthur Miller and is set in middle-class America right after World War II. As you saw, included here is a monologue from his play. Next, we visit the southern state of Kentucky, where the short story, The Split Cherry Tree, written by Jesse Stewart, was set in the early 20th century. Let's fly across the country to Palo Alto, California, where the story behind the novel The Wave actually happened. I hope you don't get seasick, because the next story takes place on a cruise ship, which left California bound for Japan at the beginning of the 20th century. The story is Mr. Know-All and was written by Somerset Maugham. We end our tour today in Japan during World War II, The Setting of the Enemy by Pearl S. Buck, where a dedicated Japanese surgeon and his wife find and rescue a wounded American soldier. I hope you've enjoyed today's tour and that has inspired you to think of different ways to use Google Earth in your teaching. You can find work about these texts and more on the TLC site. On our site, we're developing activities for these texts and others using web-based tools, including Google Earth.